bring in Tom, and we'll get him kicked off. Tom's going to talk about the challenges of IT and OT. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Yeah, but still, sir.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out today with this fantastic conference and sticking around to 5 o'clock Eastern to listen to me. And after this, I believe Bryson's up, right?
Yes.
Closing. So we're going to follow on with some IT/OT stuff. Like you mentioned, a great talk by Leslie just now, and let's get into the challenges with IT/OT conversion. So I picked 8 different things to talk about today, and I promise you we're probably going to come in below 30 minutes, so don't hang up yet. Out of all the challenges I see, I focused on 8 things today. And up on the screen, we've got these 8 things. So the first one we're going to talk about is security risks. So when we talk about blending the OT and IT systems, we are introducing a lot of fresh risks. So when talk about your IT systems, hopefully they're patched on a regular basis, weekly, monthly, some sort of regular basis. You don't really see that in OT. Sometimes they never go patch, or sometimes it might be yearly or bi-yearly, depending on the maintenance turnaround or what the vendors release and stuff like that. So, right there you have security issues that you're introducing, lack of patching, and IT systems, they generally emphasize on a confidentiality and integrity. However, in OT systems, we need to focus on reliability. So, for example, you have a process running, and you have a pump that's going to pump a tank or pump out a ditch or pipe or whatever you have. If you hit the start or stop button, you need that thing to work every single time. Or if you're in a manufacturing process and you have a robot that's moving, you hit the start stop button. You need that thing to either start or stop. Definitely a huge safety implication if it does not do what you want it to do. Where in your IT systems, you go to click to send an email, it doesn't send right away. Or you go to load up a web page and you get the little spinning browser loading and it doesn't load and you got to hit refresh. All right, so it took you an extra 5 seconds to load that. In OT systems, you can't have that. When you tell it to do something, it has to do it. Or you're talking about health, life, and safety here. Next thing is a legacy infrastructure compatibility. So your OT systems, they are designed to run for 15, 20 years without a major upgrade. Along that time, you are going to hopefully patch. You are going to switch out your computers. Your computers are going to fail, whether you're running a virtual environment now or you're still running on a bare metal. You might have some touchscreen HMIs located on a panel out in your field. They're going to go bad. They're just wearable items, but it could be 5, 7, 10 years before they go bad. And your controllers may last up to 20 years. Your switching infrastructure, 15 years easily. Up until recently, you still run into hubs out in the field. You definitely run into unmanned switches. So you don't really see that with modern IT systems. You're going back to some kind of virtual environment. You're calling back to the cloud. You're upgrading your desktops or laptops, computers every 3 to 5 years. Whatever that is, it's a regular upgrade cycle. But with OT equipment, you have challenges with license. You have challenges with going from one version of, say, Windows to another, and does that software work? Do we have to change a code? Do we have to upgrade the application, things like that? It can be very, very, very costly. And not only is it costly for buying license and hardware, now you have to go through some sort of validation. Whether you're in a regulated environment or not, you still need to make sure the thing works before you go and put it out on the floor for production. Another thing we have is culture divide. So the IT and OT teams really have different priorities, skill sets, methodologies. Uh, there is a different culture between them. Uh, Not saying that they don't overlap, not saying they can't work together. However, one group is focused on your emails, your websites, your e-commerce, things of that nature. Might work 9 to 5, might have a second shift skeleton crew, or might have somebody on call. Your OT systems, they're up 24/7, 365 in most cases. So there's a huge culture difference there. And also, they have to work. You just can't leave a computer, an HMI, or a PLC, or your control system down for the weekend without impacting production in most cases. Or if you're a utility, you just can't turn off your gas in that pipeline, or de-energize those feeders for days and days on end without some kind of backup plan, without some kind of alternate service delivery. Data management and integration. So OT systems generate a tremendous amount of data in most cases on a regular basis. So what's that mean? Well, we have HMIs that talk down to PLCs, or rather, they communicate with PLCs on a second, sub-second, or multi-second interval, pulling data out of the PLCs, writing to them, reading, things like that. We're also going and storing information to a historian. So the big thing here is when we go to historians, maybe that data is used for compliance purposes, used for regulatory purposes. If you lose that data going into that historian, your batch may be no good. You might have to throw away that batch, or you might have to do some additional testing. If you have an outage, you may not have the data to do historical forensics on the outage. So our data is a lot. I'm not saying IT systems don't have a lot of data. They certainly have a lot more users in most cases. This here is a constant read and write of data. If you lose that data, the reason why your company is in business to make that widget could be a jeopardy. We also have many different data formats, different protocols, different standards that you do not find in IT networks. Interoperability. So going between OT and IT systems, we have to do that now, right? We have just-in-time manufacturing, we have remote access, we have historian data needs to go up for batch records. We have very legitimate business needs to pass that data between IT networks, OT networks, and even up to the cloud for different manufacturing reasons. But that data, again, is different. We go back to one of the first slides, we talk about safety, we talk about legacy systems and things like that. If we just start pushing that data back and forth without properly securing it, understanding the different protocols and the proprietary technologies, we can impact our quality of the product. We can impact the network's safety, or health, life, and safety of our personnel, of the environment, things like that. So we have to fully understand how both systems work. The OT systems, they have to change to adapt to the IT, but also the IT has to understand how the OT systems work and how the communication flows in order to be able to accept that information in a secure manner. Regulatory and compliance. This is a big one. Whether you work in a pharmaceutical industry, whether you work in electric, there's many different regulatory or industries that are regulated. You have to keep that data. You have to be able to meet certain standards. You have to be able to prove that you did that you're not creating an environmental impact. If you are a chemical plant, you're going to have emission data from your various stacks that you have to keep track of. If you don't keep track of that and report that back to your whether it be EPA or whoever regulates you, you talk about fines, you can talk about shutdowns. You could be impacting the environment. Unless you can prove that you didn't, you're probably going to be looking at fines. But all of these regulations, they're different. It's not just one across the board. And IT has regulations also, right? They whether you handle PII or you handle credit cards, you handle many different types of data, you could be regulated. But OT systems are also, and by connecting up to an IT system without understanding the impact, you could put your whole process at risk. So you must understand the regulatory requirements before you do that. Skill shortage. This goes both ways. So between OT and IT, you have to have personnel with skills that understand both domains if you're going to connect them. Like I said in prior slides, it's just not IT pushing down stuff. It's not OT just pushing up stuff to IT. It is understanding how both systems operate, or be able to communicate with both teams here. Those types of people, that they're few and far between. The skill sets are, there's a shortage of them. Both systems are complex. Both systems are absolutely needed. For example, you go to an OT network, you might find an OT network with hundreds or thousands of nodes on a non-segmented environment, or relatively flat environment, maybe non-filtered. You go up to IT, hopefully you don't see that. But it's this having the skills to understand why that was done, how to fix it, how to deal with an unfiltered network or a relatively flat network is definitely needed. You just can't go in and say, all right, you guys need to patch that entire environment, or you need to provide network segmentation. Let's do it next weekend. That'll end really poorly for everybody. Does it need to be done? Absolutely, in most cases. But it's understanding how to do it, why it's like that, and what are the impacts of doing that. Risk management. If you don't know how the systems work, you're not going to be able to handle your risk management very well. Your threats. Your threats could be different. Your operational disruptions are different. It's one thing to have your email server go down or your web server to go down, compared to having your warehouse or your chemical plant go down, your power plant go down. Now, your web server is not critical. If you look at, say, Amazon or any other kind of e-commerce site, they're going to say my web service is absolutely critical. 100% agree. It does impact revenue. It does impact your operation and everything, but you're not going to kill somebody. You're not going to create environmental damage or anything like that. So understanding your threats, understanding the operational disruptions, regulatory non-compliance is essential for ensuring successful convergence initiatives. So understanding the impact of what you're about to do. In conclusion, addressing these challenges require collaboration between OT and IT teams, clear communication, robust security measures, strategic approach on integration and risk management. Big thing there for me is clear communication. If you can't clearly communicate with each other, does it really matter what security measures you have in place? If IT is putting a firewall in and locking it down, but the OT engineers can't get up to the cloud for their new process improvement thing. They're just going to find another way to do it. So clearly communicate with all the teams. You do need security or robust security measures, but you also need to communicate. Strategic approach goes back to communication, I think anyway. Develop that strategic approach, communicate it to both sides. Always keep your risk in mind. So initiatives must carefully plan and execute their strategies. Plan, communicate, look at your risk, do all that stuff. You'll be successful. But go back to communicate, look at your risks, and look at the last eight slides there. I think it'll give you a good place to start and an understanding of what needs to be done. So thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Tom VanNorman, Senior Vice President at GRIMM.
Thanks, Tom. That was great.
Thank you.
I know there were some questions certainly being discussed, as this was going on. I think one of the ones that came up that I thought was interesting is just some of the differences in backup or the way that systems are maintained between OT and IT. Maybe you want to touch on that. I know that there were some good answers also in the chat, but I think it's a big difference in this area.
Absolutely. So backups, you definitely absolutely need backups. And, we can take it from the IT side where, we say back everything up, but you have to test the backups. 100% true. The difference with the backups that I've taken, and I've managed the programs and everything, is we're taking a physical backup. A lot of times I'm putting it on some kind of removable media, plus up in the cloud, different locations, testing it to make sure it works on that physical device. Make sure that code, it is up to date, but also make sure you have that interface cable. Make sure you have that laptop or that computer that can talk to that controller. That interfaces with it, the drivers are correct, everything else. A lot of these devices do have serial ports. Some of them have different connectors, whether it be DP9 or an M8 or 12 or whatever. So make sure you can talk to your controllers. Make sure you can talk to your devices. If you upgrade your computer, make sure you have that software running on it. So you take some of the major manufacturers and you upgrade the latest version of Windows. You must also install the older versions of the software on there that your backups will work on. Test them out, plug them in. Hopefully you have a lab back in your office where you can connect to it with the different firmwares and different versions. You don't want to be out there on a Saturday morning at 2 a.m. only to find out your dongle doesn't work, or you're running version 20 on your computer, but that PLC is at version 12 and you can only upgrade it to version 18 because of the chipset. So take the backups, put them somewhere where you can get to them. We'll say the cloud, but some server off-site, not in the same location as the plant, but also keep a version in the plant. Test them. When you get the historians, that's a different thing. What I was talking about now, just before, were the physical devices. Your historians are extremely important because they might hold your regulatory information. They might hold other batch information that you have to explain why you reset that data, why you restored that backup, what happened to that hour of time it took, or that's completely missing. So, but backups can be complicated, but they can also be easy if you have a solid solution and you test them.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'm not sure if we had any other questions. Do we have anything else, Trey, or otherwise we get everything?
Yeah, I had one more. So I saw some people were kind of keying in on the whole topic of cultural divide and all that. And I wanted to see if you had any tips or recommendations for those either building or working currently with a program or trying to start one, about how they could start to bridge that cultural divide between IT and OT teams. So I feel like this will apply to more than just OT and IT. This can apply to any business market.
Absolutely. And I'll jokingly say pizza and donuts. Get in front of people, talk to people. I say pizza and donuts, jokingly, but it goes a long way when you're sitting in front of somebody. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've gotten really accustomed to having virtual meetings, much like this one here. But when you're in front of that group around that table, you're communicating, you're developing that relationship, and it may not be easy off the right out of the start or off the start, but talking, communicating, understanding both sides. Meet with them. Be friendly. Being able to give and take and understand both sides. It's more of a relationship building than anything. Yes, you can always we have to do it for compliance, regulatory. Well, it's going to get done. It's going to get done probably longer, more expensive, and it's probably going to be a lot harder than developing a relationship with that other group. And it goes both ways between IT and OT.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was greatly appreciated. A very interesting topic. And again, I think we've got your contact information here. And so thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.